If you own real estate, if you develop real estate, if you want to buy real estate, you need to be tracking this data month by month. If you're not, you aren't getting the full picture about the growth and appreciation potential as well as the security of the markets that you are investing in. How's it going, everyone? This is Nick. I'm back here with another Reventure YouTube cast, and I'm really excited about today's episode because I'm going to show you guys a little peek behind the curtain. I'm going to show you guys how I evaluate markets in terms of their economic growth prospects and how you can do the same thing using the same data that I look at. It's monthly jobs data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. If you're not tracking this data month by month and you're a real estate investor, real estate developer, a home buyer, you are missing out. You're missing the big picture because economic growth is the number one determining factor for real estate appreciation and rent growth. If you're not looking at economic growth and you're not comparing cities and their economic growth, you don't know what you're getting into. And the big thing we've seen over the last year is a dramatic divergence between different economies in the US in terms of their economic recovery from the COVID recession. You have certain markets which are recovering extremely well. You even have some markets which have actually grown jobs over the last year. Meanwhile, you have other markets, the New Yorks, the Bostons, the San Franciscos of the world, which are down 10% plus on their jobs year over year. And worse yet, not only are they down 10% plus, they are stagnant. Basically, their job count today is the same as it was 6 months ago, and they're not recovering. So as a real estate investor, you want to be able to identify in real time the growth markets and the recovery markets from the stagnating markets. That's going to allow you to achieve better returns in your market selection process. So let's get into the data. And to illustrate the point, I want to start with a simple comparison. We are comparing on this graph Austin to San Francisco in their job losses over the last 12 months from January 2020 to January 2021. Austin is the orange line, San Francisco is the blue line. And what you can see on this graph immediately is the dramatic impact COVID had. April 2020, just massive declines in jobs in both Austin and San Francisco. In April, San Francisco went all the way down to minus 16% job growth from just a couple months earlier. Austin was minus 12% job losses. And then you can see that these two markets recovered over the next couple months. San Francisco got up to minus 12.9% job losses. Austin got up to minus 7.9% job losses. So there was the initial decline and then kind of the initial recovery. But really the big difference between those two markets is what has happened since then. You can see that Austin basically has steadily improved each and every month. It's added jobs back into its economy all the way to January 2021, where Austin is only down 31,000 jobs, 2.7% from where it was 1 year ago. San Francisco is a completely different story. Basically, San Francisco got up to around 12.2% job losses in August, minus 300,000, and has basically just stayed in that range since then. It's stayed flat. It's minus 286,000 jobs today. So basically, over the last 6 months, San Francisco has stalled. Its recovery has stopped, whereas Austin's has continued. And if you're a real estate investor in San Francisco, those numbers got to leave you shaking in your boots. I mean, we've already seen big declines in rents in San Francisco. Home values have held sturdy. But you got to imagine at some point values in San Francisco are going to reflect this reality of these job losses, which are just insane. I know percentage terms, it's hard to really understand just how much is minus 11% job losses year over year. Well, that is more than 1 in 10 workers in the economy. 1 in 10 jobs is now eliminated compared to just a year ago. But let's add some broader context. Just how bad is minus 11% job losses, and just how concerned should real estate owners in places like San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, and Boston be, all these markets which have similar job losses, how concerned should they be going forward? So what we're looking at here are the year-over-year job changes in the San Francisco metro going back 30 years. You can see here 2021 all the way to 1991. So we have lots of historical perspective on San Francisco's economy here. And you can see, right, there's periods of growth where we see green, we see job gains in green. Then we have periods of orange, job declines, growth, decline, growth. right? You know, a cyclical economy like most are. But what really sticks out here is the COVID job losses. Minus 11.4% job losses during COVID year over year. You can see that that is by far the highest job loss figure San Francisco has had in the last 3 decades. I mean, in the depths of the great financial crash in 2009, San Francisco lost 6.9% of its jobs year over year. In the tech bubble of 2001-2002, San Francisco lost 5.5% of its jobs. And you know, the tech bubble is something that affected San Francisco directly, given all its tech. So currently, San Fran's job losses are more than 2 times higher than they were in the tech bubble. Let that sink in for a second. San Francisco has not experienced job losses like this probably since the Great Depression, right? So when a lot of people seem to have this perspective that vaccines are here, summer's around the corner, things are opening up, that everything will just be hunky-dory, everything will go back to normal. That is not going to happen in a place like San Francisco. Nor will it happen in a place like New York, which now we're looking at the New York metro area job losses, and it's an even scarier picture for New York because, all right, so we're at minus 10.9% year over year in New York, pretty similar to San Francisco. San Francisco is 11.4%, New York is minus 10%. You can see that in nominal terms, New York has lost over 1 million jobs in its metro area year over year. That is astronomical. But in percentage terms, it's even more astronomical because historically, New York's job losses, like at the depths of the great financial crash, New York's job losses were 3.7 to 3.8% per year. Today, New York's job losses are 3 times higher. Tech bubble burst post 9/11, also remember this was post 9/11 New York, minus 2.1%. So COVID era job losses in New York are 5 times higher than they were tech bubble post 9/11. Remember, fiscal stimulus, unemployment assistance, foreclosure and eviction moratoriums, these things are hiding the economic realities from view in the real estate market right now. These things will eventually fade away. Middle to the end of this year, we're not going to have unemployment assistance as much, fiscal stimulus. The moratoriums are likely going to roll back. And it's at this point when basically the tide recedes that you're going to see the realities of the economies in places like New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and the relative benefits of being in a place like Austin or other markets which are growing or recovering really well, Boise, Salt Lake City, Columbus, Nashville, markets like that. You're going to really see the relative benefits of being those markets at the end of this year. If you own real estate, if you develop real estate, if you want to buy real estate, you need to be tracking this data month by month. If you're not, you aren't getting the full picture about the growth and appreciation potential as well as the security of the markets that you are investing in. So how do I get this data and how do I show it to you guys? The Bureau of Labor Statistics each month provides updates on jobs as well as wages and hours worked for different economies in the US. If you go to the BLS website and search their Metro Job Database, you can look at data all the way back to 1990 and update it each month. So you can track what's going on in your markets, and you can also find the markets that you want to target for future growth and development. If you guys are interested in this and you want help, if you don't necessarily have the time to do this because you're really busy, reach out to me. I specialize in helping real estate companies use data to figure out the best markets to invest in. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Also go to www.reventureconsulting.com. You can submit a contact form and I'll get back to you. Until next time, this is Nick from Reventure Consulting signing off.